The Lost Scrolls Ep.10, The 10 Plagues of Egypt, Pharaoh's Defiance, and God's Power. In the land of Egypt, a kingdom gilded in sunfire, power flowed like the great Nile itself. It carved canyons of splendor through cities of stone and filled the treasuries of a god-king named Pharaoh. His throne was ivory, his halls were alabaster, and his dominion was absolute. But beneath the golden veneer, another river flowed, a river of tears born from the suffering of the Hebrew people. They were a nation in chains, their backs bent under the lash, their prayers swallowed by the desert winds. Their very existence was mortar for Pharaoh's monuments, their children born into the dust of bondage. Into this crucible of pride and pain walked two men, brothers bound by blood and a divine command. Moses, a shepherd who had met God in a burning bush, carried the weight of a nation on his shoulders. His heart was a storm of fear and faith. Beside him stood Aaron, his voice the vessel for the thunderous words of the Almighty. They were but two men against an empire, their only weapon, a shepherd's staff and a promise whispered in the wilderness. They stood before the throne, the air thick with incense and arrogance. Pharaoh, a living idol, looked down upon them with cold amusement. It was then that Aaron's voice, empowered by the unseen, echoed in the silent hall. Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness. A flicker of disbelief, then contempt, crossed Pharaoh's face. Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go. His decree was final. A stone dropped into the well of destiny. That night, as Moses prayed under a sky littered with indifferent stars, a voice that was not the wind spoke into his soul. I am the Lord. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch out my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. This is not merely for Israel's freedom, but for the revelation of my glory. The first sign was a horror upon the water. At God's command, Aaron stretched his staff over the Nile, the lifeblood of the empire. In an instant, the sacred river turned to blood. The water in the canals, the ponds, even the water stored in vessels of wood and stone, all of it became a crimson tide. The fish died, and a foul stench rose from the waters, a perfume of death that choked the golden cities. Egypt, a kingdom built on the Nile's blessing, now gagged on its curse. 7 days passed. Pharaoh's heart remained a fortress. Then came the second plague. A croaking, slimy tide of frogs surged from the bloodied waters. They swarmed the land, covering every path, filling every home. They were in the ovens and the kneading bowls, in the bedchambers of kings and the hovels of slaves. The relentless, guttural song of the frogs became the anthem of Egypt's torment, a plague that could be heard and felt in every corner of the kingdom. Pharaoh relented, then recanted. His heart, a stone, grew heavier still, so the Lord commanded a subtler, more maddening judgment. Aaron struck the dust of the earth, and it rose not as sand, but as a living cloud of gnats. They clung to man and beast, a fine, biting torment that no one could escape. Pharaoh's own magicians, their secret arts failing them, fell back in dismay. This, they confessed with trembling voices, is the finger of God. Still, Pharaoh would not yield, and so God drew a line in the sand. He sent swarms of flies, thick and buzzing, to descend upon the palaces and houses of the Egyptians. The air hummed with their pestilence, but in the land of Goshen, where the Hebrews lived, there were no flies, not one. For the first time, a visible hedge of protection was placed around God's people, a divine separation that even the blindest Egyptian could see. The fifth blow struck at the heart of Egypt's wealth. A severe pestilence fell upon the livestock in the fields. The horses, the donkeys, the camels, the cattle, and the sheep of the Egyptians died where they stood. The fields became graveyards, the wealth of a nation rotting under the sun. Yet again, in Goshen, not a single animal belonging to the Israelites was harmed. The Lord's distinction was as precise as it was devastating. Pharaoh's defiance invited a plague that touched the flesh. Moses threw soot from a furnace into the air, and it became a fine dust that settled on the people of Egypt. It brought forth boils, breaking out in painful sores on every man and beast. The affliction was so grievous that the magicians, their bodies racked with pain, could not even stand before Moses. The gods of Egypt were silent, their priests were in agony. Moses retreated into the silence of his own heart, the groans of Egypt echoing in his spirit. "Lord," he whispered, "how long? The weight of this suffering is a mountain." And the voice of God answered, not in the thunder, but in the stillness of his soul. "Have I not told you? It is for this very purpose that I have raised him up, that I may show my power in him, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. Do not fear, Moses. I will show my glory through Pharaoh." The seventh plague was a terror from the heavens. Upon a land that had rarely seen rain, God sent a storm of impossible fury. Hail, great chunks of ice mingled with fire, rained down from the sky. It shattered every tree, flattened every crop left in the field, and struck down any man or beast left unsheltered. The sound was a deafening roar of judgment, the sky itself at war with the defiant kingdom below. What the hail had left, the locusts would take. An east wind blew, and with the morning came a cloud so vast, it blotted out the sun. It was a living, chewing carpet of locusts that settled over the land, covering every surface. They devoured every herb, every fruit, every green thing the hail had not destroyed. When they finally departed, they left behind a barren, skeletal landscape. Egypt, once a garden, was now a desert. Pharaoh's heart was an anvil, hammered harder with every blow. So God sent a plague that could be felt, a darkness so profound it seemed to have substance. For 3 days, a thick, supernatural gloom covered all of Egypt. It was a darkness that smothered light, a darkness that isolated every soul. Neighbors could not see one another. No one dared move from his place. It was the terror of absolute blindness, a taste of the void. But while Egypt was imprisoned in a suffocating night, a miracle of grace unfolded in Goshen. There, the homes of the Hebrews were filled with light. Children played, families shared meals, and their lamps burned brightly against the encroaching void. Their light was not just physical, it was a beacon of hope, a testament to the God who separates his people from the world's deepest darkness. Shrouded in the gloom of his own palace, Pharaoh summoned Moses. His voice was a low growl. "Go, serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds remain." But Moses refused. "Not a hoof shall be left behind." Pharaoh's rage finally exploded. "Get away from me. Take heed to yourself and see my face no more. For in the day you see my face, you shall die." And Moses, his face set like flint, replied, "You have spoken well. I will see your face no more." The final, dreadful instruction came from the Lord. It was a command wrapped in a promise, a ritual of salvation. Each Hebrew family was to take a lamb, a male without blemish. They were to care for it, and then, at twilight on the 14th day, they were to slaughter it. This was the Passover, a holy ordinance. They were to eat its roasted flesh with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, dressed and ready to leave at a moment's notice. The most vital command was for the blood. They were to take a hyssop branch, dip it in the blood of the slain lamb, and strike it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of their homes. It was an act of pure faith, a crimson sign of obedience painted in the moonlight. That blood was a shield, a mark of covenant that would cause the coming judgment to pass over them. It was a prophecy written in blood, a foreshadowing of a greater Lamb whose sacrifice would one day save the world. Midnight approached. A profound and terrible silence fell over the entire land of Egypt. In Goshen, behind the blood-marked doors, Hebrew families huddled together. They did not speak. They listened to the beating of their own hearts, their breath held in a collective prayer of trembling hope. They waited in the quiet dark, trusting in a promise, shielded by the blood. At midnight, the Lord passed through Egypt, and where there was no blood upon the door, the destroyer entered. A great cry arose, a sound of anguish that tore through the silent night. It was a wail that began in the golden halls of the palace and was echoed in the lowest dungeon. In every Egyptian home, a family was broken, for the Lord struck down all the firstborn, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive in the dungeon. Broken, utterly broken, Pharaoh, the God King, the Defiant One, sent for Moses and Aaron in the dead of night. His voice was no longer a command, but a desperate plea. Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel. Go, serve the Lord as you have said. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone. And then, the ultimate surrender from a shattered king. And bless me also. And so they left, not as slaves fleeing in the night, but as a nation redeemed marching with heads held high. They went out with trembling joy, a liberated people moving toward a promised dawn. And as they went, their former masters, desperate for them to be gone, pressed upon them gifts of silver and gold and clothing. They did not flee as paupers. They marched out bearing the plunder of an empire, the wages for centuries of bondage finally paid. But back in the silent, grieving palace, Pharaoh stood alone. The cries of his people had faded to a low murmur of sorrow. As the sun rose on his broken kingdom, his grief began to curdle, hardening once more into a familiar, burning rage. The chains on his heart, though cracked, had not been fully broken. A storm was gathering, a final, desperate pursuit that would lead to the shores of the Red Sea. The voice of God echoed over the sands of time, a promise for all generations. When the world seems unshakable, my hand will shake it. When kings harden their hearts, my power will break chains. For I am the Lord who sees the affliction of my people, who hears their cry, and who comes down to deliver. Remember this night, for it is a testament that no darkness is absolute, and no bondage is forever. I am the Lord who delivers.